Okay, we'll call the special meeting of the planning board to order. Um, and as advertised, the purpose of the special meeting today, this evening, was to have a study session to talk about potential ordinances, new ordinances or amendments to ordinances that we may want to share with the planning board and make recommendations to them about those ordinances and other ordinances that others may be proposing for inclusion in the town meeting warrant. I apologize, I didn't put together agenda. I meant to last night, but we got in a little bit late. And
Oh, that's right. You've just come back from
Yeah.
a fun trip.
How Tanny is.
Was it?
How Tanny is.
Okay.
He's 2 shades darker than the rest of us.
Okay, all right, good. Congrats on that.
but, when I found myself nodding off as I
Oh.
was
So good, so good.
doing something important, we just crash it. But anyway, so what I thought I'd do is just kind of give everyone a sense of what I was hoping we would do tonight, and then get your input on making any changes, additions, deletions to that proposal. First of all, I thought it'd be great if we could catch up with the Colin group. I'll just say it that way. And give us, who weren't able to attend, an opportunity to catch up. And then also kind of perhaps give you all an opportunity to confirm the highlights that you all left that meeting with, and things for us to know about and be thinking about. Maybe 10 minutes, but depending upon how that flows. And then I mentioned to Susan, I wanted to go to her. She has made her presentation. I think we all have a pretty good handle on what she has. I don't know if you brought with you drafts of what you're proposing.
I have one.
That's fine, that's fine. You
Yeah,
can-
okay.
And as I explained to Susan, we're not making any decisions tonight. We're just brainstorming. But I said to her, I anticipate that take her recommendation and include it in the group of ordinances that we're planning to seriously consider, and then approve those at our next meeting, not next week, not the meeting. So so we'll give you an opportunity to review your final draft with this. I don't think it'll be necessary for you to talk much more about it. I think we really have a pretty good understanding of it, but folks around the table may have questions.
Okay,
And of course, you'll have an opportunity to talk to us again once we make the final decision at the next meeting. Then I thought it would be helpful, those of us around the table who have a pretty concrete proposal, either in writing. I know we posted out some stuff. Mine isn't in writing, but it's about 2 or 3 sentences, amending the water quality ordinance that I'll share. And then, as I say, we go around the room and see what it has, who they want to present. And what I envision tonight is moving forward with some concrete proposals. Not to say we can't consider other things at our next meeting or at the April meeting, but be prepared at the April meeting to actually vote on recommendations to the select. Any thoughts? Anybody want to add to, subtract from?
My only thought is that the things I have to say about what I've learned from Colin, and his colleague Ross relate to my proposals for the, my bigger proposal for the building code and shoreline zone ordinance.
So you wanna
So
wait
it
on that?
might make sense for Susan to go first.
Okay, that sounds good, yeah. I was kind of forcing Susan to listen to that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Because she's taken such an interest.
Wow,
in what we're
it's
doing.
fascinating, but yeah.
Well,
But you
so
could,
you
you
don't mind
could
me asking
put some
what is it
context
about?
for it, could put some context for it.
Oh, what is it about?
Yeah,
So I've had an interest in trying to streamline, we have these two land use ordinances
Mhm.
and they're largely overlapping. And it's a little hard to make sense of them. And so I'm like, maybe we could just streamline this and have one nice zoning ordinance. And so I was kind of digging into that, trying to make it more efficient, trying to have it make sense. And then we had this gentleman, Colin Clark, he's from the DEP and he reviews shoreland zoning for towns. And he came down to talk to us and he made some points about our ordinances that are important, things that we really need to update about what zones we have. Basically differentiating shoreland from non-shoreland districts. And so that really speaks to and dovetails with that streamlining and efficiency, because if we treat our districts the way Colin has suggested we treat them, then I think everything else kind of falls into place and starts to make
Mhm.
more sense.
Okay,
Yeah. But a
so
little bit of a can of worms.
don't say that, but, so you think that from the committee, you'll be putting Colin's recommendations into maybe some amendments to what your proposal was of a couple weeks ago?
Yes, yep. So that wasn't exactly a proposal, that was a mashup.
Well, yeah, whatever,
Where-
it was beautiful, it was a beautiful mashup, you're right,
Rainbow.
right,
I
right.
had to figure out what was in our building code ordinance versus our shoreline zone ordinance versus the DEP model ordinance. So I mashed them all together. It's crazy. It took me like a week. But it was a good exercise because it did, that's not the proposal, but
Right.
that clarified a lot for me, like what's where and why.
Okay,
I've been kind of working on a non-color coded version that is just like, here's what I'm gonna propose. I'm not quite there yet. I can share parts of it with you tonight, but
yeah,
what I learned from Colin and the DEP staff is that the changes that we need to make are even bigger.
okay.
They're important and they're urgent.
Okay.
important.
Well, with that teaser, and hopes that you'll feel free to remain with us and participate. I should note for the record that obviously the public was invited, it was widely advertised, and noting for the record that we don't have any other members of the public here other than Susan. Thank you for being here. All right, well then let's do that. Susan, why don't you go ahead and share with us your proposal?
Sure. I can leave this with you, the one copy I have.
I know you amended it at one point.
Yeah, so I don't know if you all saw the original draft that I had written. I actually had Terminex review it and
Okay.
they came back and said that it would prohibit, the way it was written, it would prohibit homeowners from using synthetic chemicals for pest control at their home, and that wasn't my original intention, although it would be nice if we could do that, but it's not, as Gary pointed out, several months ago, Gary Richardson pointed out, it's not it would be really difficult to
Hard to
enforce.
enforce.
Yeah, so I amended this to allow the homeowners to continue to use synthetic pesticides and to hire pest control companies to use synthetic pesticides. I asked Terminex to review it again and they after repeated attempts, they would not get back to me.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. But the wording is pretty clear in here, allowing that the
Okay.
homeowner is allowed to use what they want to use and to hire who they want to hire. So I also had Kyle DePietro look at it. He's pretty much organic
Mhm.
farmer, so he actually came back and said that he saw no issues with it at all. The one issue that could come up is if we had a farmer, a person buy a piece of land to do commercial farming on the island, and they wanted to use synthetic pesticides, they would not be able to with this ordinance, the way it's written. So that's something to consider. There is a clause in here to allow for emergency use if there's a public health problem. And of course, it can be overridden by, I mean, if the select board can, make decisions that don't follow the ordinance as well. So what I was hoping to do is, what I was hoping to have happen is to have this approved and then, maybe go a little further after the town meeting, put together some kind of a workshop for, for what citizens of Westport sometime in the summer, so that, I can get folks that are willing to come and talk about the risks with these pesticides. I know there has been a lot of activity recently, yeah, tell me if I'm talking too much, I don't
No,
know.
all good, all good, all good.
So, a couple of months ago, there was, so there's two, for lack of a better term, schools of thought on this. The World Health Organization, believes that Roundup, is actually carcinogenic. The EPA did not believe it was carcinogenic, but recently the study that they were referring to has been invalidated. So that was a big, that was big news. However, last week, the Trump administration's been meeting with Monsanto. And I think they're gonna come out with some legislation saying that it's okay. That it's okay for Monsanto to keep producing this and using it. That's how the news article that I was looking at read. So I don't think there's gonna be anything happening soon about
Just
this,
wait for the law.
about Roundup and glyphosate going against it, although it would be good if it did. Most of the world allows 10 parts per million in drinking water. The United States currently has their limits at 700 parts per million in drinking water, so, you know, there's, the chemical lobby is big and powerful, and that's why, so, unfortunately, so. I think doing things at a local level is the way that it has to start, and there are many towns in Maine that have already done this. There are a few towns that have banned it completely, South Portland, Algonquit. And I think there's one other that have completely banned the use of glyphosate and some other synthetic pesticides. There are several towns that ban it commercially, including Southport, and I was using a lot of what Southport had in their, they actually have it in their land use ordinance, so, as part of their land use ordinance, so.
Sounds good,
Yeah,
sounds good.
so,
Well, as the movie says, you had us at hello, could we, let's see what you got, let me just summarize, because we're at the point where we're gonna start, wordsmithing, not tonight, but.
yeah, that's fine.
So,
I can send this electronically too, if that would help.
Well,
That really would help.
That'd be great.
It's mostly how we do things.
Okay,
yeah, that'd be great, that'd be
Yes,
great.
Yeah.
yeah,
But just a quick run through, got title, purpose, prohibition. Commercial use of any synthetic pesticide or herbicide is prohibited within the limits of Westport Island, except when such use is on residential property at the request of and under the direction of the homeowner. Okay. Commercial use means any application, then you define commercial use. And I'm guessing you got that from some of the other ordinances that you had to look at. The
yeah,
definition.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
and then you talk about encouraging public education. Okay, all right, good. I think this gives us what we need to work with in terms of, as I say, wordsmithing, putting it in the final form that
Okay,
that will what the town or what the select board is used to looking at and kind of merge with our ordinances, so.
okay.
I think we're in good shape.
Is this going to be a standalone, or is it going to be incorporated in our building code ordinance?
It could actually, I originally thought it would make sense to put it in the, you call it a building code ordinance? or
That's what it's titled, this is the building
It's
code
a
ordinance.
bad title, but yeah, the
Yeah.
building code ordinance is probably.
Yeah, I mean.
I think that's a good idea.
However you think it would work, if you're making a lot of changes to that document,
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, I think we want to apply to all of everywhere. right?
Shoreland for sure would be, if
yeah,
we
Yeah, I
keep
don't-
two separate ordinances, it would go in both, and definitely shoreland, because that's key.
yeah,
But both would be good, and
Yeah.
if we combine, it could go in that single ordinance, but it would probably just go under the land use standard section
Mhm.
as its own.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
would have all the enforcement and stuff
mhm,
built in.
yeah,
So that becomes more kind of a mechanical question as to whether we have a standalone ordinance that say this applies everywhere to every district, or we insert it into whatever we have left over as the ordinances, so.
mhm,
But that's something we can play with, and obviously you'll be an advisor to us or consultant.
Sure.
We don't
Yeah.
wanna do anything that has a substantive impact on what we're trying to do, so.
I know this has been months in the works, and the original, and please forgive me for repeating myself, but, the reason I became interested in this was because of Kelp spraying.
Yep.
Glyphosate on the preserves. So we've got all these lovely preserves out here and they're using synthetic chemicals on them,
Yeah,
which is my goal is to try to stop that and try to educate. Put out some kind of education for homeowners so that they rethink
yeah,
the use of synthetic pesticides.
yeah, for sure,
Mhm.
we want to, and, we probably want to publicize this or encourage the town to publicize this. so.
You might wanna talk to the conservation commission, sorry, Jeff.
Yep.
Cause they're doing water education, and I'm sure they're gonna wanna do a piece about chemicals and use of chemicals in the water table. So
Okay.
I'm sure they would love to work with you on that and,
Can you send me a contact, April, or?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And Springman?
Yeah, and Anne is the chair.
Okay,
Yep.
I know, Anna, so.
But so my question would be along the lines of, the one, education seems like since it's really relying on. You're still allowing homeowners, landowners to do, so you wanna discourage them from doing it, you want the education part. And that's makes perfect dovetail with conservation commission, because you're looking perks down in their water table. But I'm trying to go in the other direction, so, okay, so what is getting prohibited? If it's
So-
commercial,
Yeah, so what happens is anybody with a commercial license and the folks that are spraying for
Mhm.
kelp would have to have a commercial license. They have to know the regulations for every for every area that they're doing any applications at, so if they. If they're doing applications on Westport and they see this ordinance, they're not gonna spray, because they could lose their. They could lose their applicator license, not by the town of Westport,
Mhm.
but, you know, by going against, ordinances, so.
Because they're not considered to be a landowner, given permission.
The, right, well, it's a it's public land,
Mhm.
but the preserves are for the public, and, is that right, or no?
Well, they
They're a
own,
nonprofit, but they're a nonprofit that
yeah,
owns
they're
the
not
land.
profit, but they own the land.
Cal owns the land,
Yes.
okay, but they're not homeowners.
No,
So,
no,
yeah.
so it kind of
That's
goes back to how you phrase it. If your
Right.
intention was to have an owner, a landowner who's not a homeowner,
Right.
then that applies.
Mhm.
The other thing I was just trying to say, what else it might apply, because most of the island is homeowners.
Right,
And if they're allowed then to make that decision, you know, decided, okay, a potential future farm, that's true.
Mhm.
But I think the other thing that it would be if you have CMP or other,
they're not, they wouldn't be allowed to,
right, I think that's the other use that would be prohibited, would be people who were, well, because they wanna get, stuff, you know, knocked down in their,
Yeah, yeah.
right of ways.
right,
So that would control that.
yeah.
Uh,
They'd have to manually remove it or find some non-synthetic herbicide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
so, yeah,
Okay, good. Well, we'll just start, and I didn't see that there's a second page here, so on the back. So actually 3 pages, so, all right, thank you very much. You've
Okay.
given us.
So you'll email us a digital version
you
of it?
have John, April, and Nick's email address, so if I send it to.
Look at them,
Yeah.
look at them.
John and the-
We'll get it around.
Okay, I will do that,
Thank you, Susan, so much for this.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
yeah.
You've done, just about all the work in these.
Another question, just quickly, how does a person get on the planning board? How do you become?
I was
Oh, wow.
going to ask. if you
Well,
might
well,
be-
well done. That's an excellent question.
Well,
You do what you just did.
We volunteer,
Ask,
we
you
volunteer, and then we get appointed, and then we work a little bit, so.
We actually have a
Okay.
committee interest form on our website where you can fill it out and say whatever committees you're interested in and why. And the way you get on a committee is the select board appoints you when there's vacancies. So if you tell them what you're interested in, then we'll sort of have it on file. I think the planning board is full at the moment,
Yeah, we have,
but
we have 5 members and 2 alternates.
Right.
Okay.
But still, put your name in
things
there.
open
Yeah,
up.
for sure.
Things open up, yeah, and it lists all the committees, so there may be other things you don't even know about that you're interested in.
okay,
So,
great,
yeah,
The secret
All right.
committees.
yeah.
be careful, you say you're interested, we're all like.
Conservation.
Yeah, be careful.
I don't know how,
Okay.
we could always add or suggested. Select board add more alternates too, if we had.
I don't know.
I don't know where that's, cause it's, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
sign up.
I'll
Yeah,
I'll sign up.
Yeah, take a look,
Okay.
take a look, Susan, yeah, yeah, no, this is good.
Yeah, well, you're
Yeah.
welcome to hang out too if you'd like, so.
I'll,
Yeah,
Okay.
well, listen in, I mean, listen, if you're interested, see if this.
yeah,
Oh,
maybe
really?
maybe I will.
But if you got dinner on the stove.
If it gets
too,
dry, go ahead. We will.
No, okay,
Leave it at your
You
leisure,
hop.
no pressure. All right, thank you. Okay, April, you wanna do the Holland thing?
Sure.
What do we
I
do?
guess,
Okay.
I guess
Sure.
just to put it in context, give us some, just, 30-second. How did you hook up with Colin and how did you guys get together and why is he an important person to talk to?
Well, Demi set it all up. And. I mean, I went in with like very specific, interesting questions based on the streamlining and how it all fits together. I had more like technical.
Hmm.
Administrative questions, and I think Demi and Nick and Jeff had very different objectives, because they're kind of thinking about like. Bigger picture things, so
Okay.
if you guys wanna speak to that, I don't.
How did Demi go find Colin, was what was the
Oh,
process?
Either, I mean,
You knew him, I
Yeah.
think from her construction work.
As an expert and.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
He's, I
Yes.
think, maybe the lead for that part of DEP.
Yeah, he reviewed our shoreline
Yeah.
zone ordinance every
Yes.
time we amend it, and
Yes.
everybody's shoreline zone ordinances for the whole state, every
Yeah.
time they.
So he actually participated, maybe 3 years ago. Planning board was reviewing a short on property, south end of the island, where the owner wanted to do, renovations on an old structure. And he walked us through, how, explaining, we learned that we weren't looking at this right in terms of,
Oh, geez.
taking a structure, and just how much can you do to something that's in the 75-foot zone? And so Gary's assumptions had to get revised. So that's when I first heard of Colin, was he basically told us, you guys are looking at this wrong. And he was right, looking at, again, the statute in more detail. So I really think he's a good resource, because he is, I think, the guy or part of the office that's responsible for this.
And just, historical context, what was it we were doing wrong?
It was calculating how much you could, update, you've got an old property,
Oh, okay,
if you,
Oh,
so if you are. Repairing. You can do just so much,
right,
but it goes back to the value. Not just the floor space, as I recall them.
right.
So,
And I remember we had that,
yeah, it's kind of the consideration, and unfortunately, that has meant that I think the property owner. He sold his main property. This was another on a separate lot, but I don't think they've done anything with it.
I remember we had that one property a couple of years ago.
This is part one, you're probably part of, it's part of the history committee, we walk through it and document.
Yeah.
That property,
Yeah,
so it's a shame to lose it.
Yeah.
Because the foundation may actually be from the 1772 period, even though the structure itself is probably 1840s.
right.
So we were approaching it a little bit differently, because
Yeah.
it related to the zoning and mapping function, but it turns out that. There was a significant overlap to what April was trying to accomplish and a significant portion of what we're trying to accomplish, so it ended up. Zeroing in on those overlaps in the meetings, so it's very constructive.
Did he offer, or did you guys get into a discussion of kind of the big picture, how the island is zoned and broken up, and whether it made sense and maybe it made no
Oh,
sense,
just wait,
but he maybe had some ideas how we could make sense of it?
yes.
He has ideas, April has ideas,
Okay,
I have ideas, some immediate.
I'm just skeptical.
The immediate part is what April's really
Right.
addressing. and
You can
that's-
break it into like, here's what we just mandatory really have to do versus here's all the creative ways we can look at mapping and changing our districts to maybe achieve goals, policy goals. So I'm definitely more in the mandatory zone,
right,
and I
this point,
think
this point.
Demi and Nick and Jeff are interested in the more creative policy goals, which
Right.
I also find interesting, but it's only so much. So,
well, if you don't mind, because I don't want to lose sight of it, but it'd be interesting to hear maybe 5 minutes or so about the big picture goals that you all discussed with him. Is it in terms of creating a more logical plan for the island, or of future development and growth?
It's both. I mean, there are some, as April's pointing out, there are aspects of our ordinances that really don't conform to the shoreline zone. And we have to fix that. There's another category that might not conform, but I think it's gonna take more homework to figure out. And then there's a third category that are just optional that we want to consider.
Yeah,
but there's no way it's gonna happen this spring, so.
what kinds of things are, and I'm just more curiosity than anything else, but what kinds of things have been discussed or thought about in the third category?
Well, there's both the shoreline zone and especially the growth management statute. There's mandatory provisions. But there are also quite a few optional provisions. And Westward Island didn't opt into any of them. None of them.
Yep, yep.
And so there's a lot of opportunities for preservation along the lines of the ideas that are proposed or outlined in the comprehensive plan. As possibilities that we want to deal with that we never opted into, and so we're not protecting them.
What are some examples, just a couple of examples?
Well, there's a lot of smaller wetlands and streams that, because the larger ones are covered by the land use ordinance, but the smaller ones aren't. But it may well tie into our groundwater protection interests, protect those. Same with wetlands. You can protect historic preservation sites. You can protect public access, wildlife habitats. Those are all optional provisions that are part of the so-called state goals in the statute, but they're not mandated.
Okay, that's exciting, that's cool, that's great.
But those also, any of those would affect individual homeowner parcels, so
Right.
you'd have to notify owners, and that's gonna be a long process.
Right.
That's not, but there's a few things, as April's is gonna say that we really need to do right away.
Right.
And I was wrestling with how to get at that, but she's way ahead of me on that part, so I'm just deferring to her on it.
Right. One last question coming at it from a different direction. Did he have any observations on our current structures? The building code for what it is and,
He likes having a separate shoreline zoning code. It's totally fine to have one ordinance and combine your shoreline and building. They say it in the DEP guidelines, they say it in the Office of Community Planning guidelines, they say it everywhere. But then when you talk to Colin, he's like, I really don't like it. He's the one who has to review this stuff, so I'm sure he doesn't want to have to pick through your
right,
comprehensive land
Okay,
use to
okay.
get to the parts he needs. So, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence there, how it ends up. I like the idea of one,
Mhm.
because
right.
having two is just confusing and hard for users, hard for the layman, hard for residents. But, you know,
Right.
I'm not just discounting his opinion, he has to review it and approve it after all,
Right.
so,
But
yeah.
did he have any kind of qualitative observations about what we call the building codes?
He doesn't look at that.
He doesn't even.
It's just a shoreline.
He's
He's
only
just
shoreland, yeah. And that's kind of part of where we went.
Yeah.
Askew.
So part of what, I think was strong coming through this big picture is the relationship between the zones and the districts.
Do you want me to just get into this? Cause we're
Yeah.
starting to get into
Yeah.
the.
Okay,
That's good. Thank you guys. I'm so sorry I missed that. I really wanted to be part of it.
You know why it was worth it. So I just threw this together last second because I wanted to kind of summarize what I think the like main urgent issues to be addressed are. And I'm just gonna use this map to sort of illustrate particularly this first
Right,
one.
enough way to talk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Per Colin, and now his colleague Ross, and I have confirmed it like 3 times now. Shoreland districts end at the shoreland zone, which is the 250-foot mark. So essentially, we have 4 districts. They're all from the shoreland zoning ordinance, even though for some reason we copied them over into the building code ordinance. They should not be there. They're shoreland zoning ordinances, and they should all be within this strip.
Why do you say? Because the commercial, residential, all those show up also in the growth management statute.
I don't know what any of that means. What I know is,
Well, I'm just
in
saying,
our shoreline zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
The shoreline zoning ordinance, the DEP model ordinance is strictly shoreline zoning.
Okay.
We basically copied that ordinance.
Okay.
Which is fine. But those are short, that's just shoreline zone. And for some reason, I think when we created our building code ordinance way back, what they probably did was they took that shoreline zone ordinance, because like I said, they're mostly the same. They took out the shoreline stuff. You're shaking your head, it's 75% the same. What happened?
It should be.
Yeah.
But because you've got something that has the same purpose as a district. So you have a commercial district, residential district, they're in the growth management statute as well.
Okay,
So it's made sense that if you have a district of certain type of property use, and you've got a shoreline zone, then adds additional restrictions or requirements
yep,
to that property use.
okay, well, I don't know about that statute. All I know is I've been looking at the shoreline zoning ordinance, the model ordinance, and I've been talking to the DEP staff. And they're telling me that our shoreline zones, Colin specifically was looking at this map when he brought it up, and he said, what's all this tan? And I said, this is our limited residential commercial district. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, it covers the entire interior of the island, plus most of the shoreline zone. And he says, oh, that's a big problem. You can't do that. That district, there needs to be a division between the shoreline zone district and whatever we want to create in here for an inland district. It cannot be one district. Another problem, after he left, and I noodled on that for a minute, is that our CFMA districts on our zoning maps are illustrated as going up to the property line. They do not do that. They have to end at the 250-foot
Yep, yep.
shoreline line. So our maps need to be updated. And hopefully that's not going to inconvenience any CFMA homes. I think probably not. I think they're mostly doing that development on the shoreline. And I think in Gary's mind, I've heard him say that, so I think they do end. But our map, according to the state notes in the DEP, the state finds and the courts find the map controlling. So we've got to update our map.
Okay.
And that is a town meeting vote, so that's really important. And what I've written up here, bare minimum changes, is that we need to designate this inland area as its own district.
And
And that's how you.
yeah, we'll come back to that, because I say I have a different take.
You need to talk to the DEP.
No,
You
this
can
isn't,
talk to
this
the
isn't a DAP thing.
Okay,
I'm trying to say that they exist in the
uh-huh,
growth management statute.
okay.
I don't know this, but they could have existed before shoreline zoning.
So when Colin Clark.
Yeah.
of the DEP says, this is incorrect.
Yeah.
You cannot have a shoreline zone that goes into your non-shoreline zone. You're saying, Colin, you are wrong.
No, I'm not.
Because there's this other statute.
Yeah, because
Uh-huh.
shoreline zone sets a limit of 250 feet. So any districts in that shoreline zone, except Collins Point, which is,
Uh-huh.
they have to stop at that 250 feet.
Yes,
So all the shoreline zone districts, or
yes,
the districts that are in the shoreline zone, stop at 250 feet.
yep,
But the same types of districts are in the tier, they're covered by the growth management statute.
yes,
So the limited commercial residential,
uh-huh,
the resource protection, historic protection, if we want that way. The only thing that I don't
we
think
just have to
applies,
create them as an inland district.
yeah, I think the point is you want
Yeah.
to create it now is really say, we have a zone that's
Yes.
on shoreline.
Yes,
We say that shoreline zoning is one thing, and that's the top level.
yep,
Then we have a non-shoreline zone, which is another thing at the
Right.
top level. Underneath them are the districts.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's-
we're agreeing then. So basically, we have two zones and we don't explicitly talk about the non-shoreline zone. We call it the building code ordinance, which is a dumb title and we should change it because it's very confusing. It has nothing to do with buildings. It's this
Yep,
part
yep,
covers
yep.
the inside of the island. And within it, we have this one district that overflows and all we have to do is create a new district. As you can see on your
Mhm,
paper here. So the shoreline zone will continue to have those four, but the non-shoreline zone, we have to just semantically rename it. We could create more districts and have more columns in here, but we need at least one. So that we are drawing a line at that 250 mark and making this a different district.
Good.
But it could be the same as the shoreland, limited residential commercial, we just rename it and call it a different district.
I responded to material, but probably
Yeah.
too late in the afternoon for you to see it. Just saying,
Mhm.
the what's inside, let's say the non-shoreline zone
Yeah,
can have the same districts except for the CFMA, because that's strictly shoreline.
yes,
But the resource protection, limited districts, if we keep the limited development district and the commercial residential, and we can add others, as Nick mentioned, there are others that we could possibly use if we had, would desire to. They can all be in that non-shoreline zone. So it's not creating a district so much, because we have the districts. It's putting the line and saying, okay, this district that we thought was one
Yes.
district with portion of the shoreline zone is actually two districts.
yes.
So what's the difference then between a district and a zone?
Districts are within zones. Districts are within zones. That's my new mantra. Districts are within zones. The shoreland districts are within the shoreland zone. They must end at the 250-foot mark. The non-shoreland districts will be in the non-shoreland zone, and I think we should make a practice of talking about that a little more explicitly, because it wasn't clear to me at all.
Yeah.
That we have two zones.
Okay,
There's these shoreland districts, and then we can
We need.
create as many as we want, but
Right.
right now, just to keep it status quo. We create one, and that doesn't change anything substantively for homeowners, it just gets us in line with what we're supposed to be doing.
If we're rather than saying create a district, why don't we create the zone and let the districts that are there in that zone continue?
You
Because you have to split the
that's not
districts with the 250. I think it is.
I don't think it is,
Why?
but you can take it up with Colin and you can take it up with Ross,
It's
I've been
not-
over this a million times with them, because you keep saying no. And I'm like, I think it is,
I-
but
I-
let me make sure.
I don't
They
think
can't.
we're in conflict.
So if
April,
you create a different zone and you don't create a different district, then you have one district in two zones, which is not okay.
We're gonna have a limited commercial in the shoreline zone, we're gonna have limited commercial in the non-shoreline zone.
Right?
So two zones, many districts.
Right now, on the inland part, we actually don't have any other districts. The resource protection is written entirely within the shoreline zone. CFMA, same with limited development and CFMA.
Okay.
So at the moment, April is correct, everything else is different.
Okay.
But the key provisions, statute provisions of the shoreline is statewide. There's almost no flexibility for local conditions that ignores property lines completely. The growth management, which creates the districts, are different. There are minimum standards, but it allows a lot of flexibility for local conditions and is required to follow property lines. So it's a very different set. And so Colin basically said zones and districts aren't the same thing, but they do kind of overlap each other in certain respects. Our problem is we sort of wrote the ordinance in a way that melded them. So like there are specific coverage provisions in the shoreline district, and we made them by the lot, not by
Right.
the part of the lot in the shoreline zone. So it's quite different from what the shoreline zone actually requires.
I think it reflects again, the original growth management in terms of how they set that up.
So-
Districts.
So by definition, districts follow boundary lines,
They do,
zones don't. And
unless we that we were talking about optional provisions, we can add items to the resource protection district that are not in the shoreline zone.
No, you can't. I talked to Ross about this too, so we're having different interpretations, and Ross has offered to come next Wednesday and talk through this,
The statute says you.
but
Yeah, I don't understand why you said we can't. He's talking shoreline zone.
he's talking shoreline zone,
And we're talking the
Uh-huh.
non-shoreline zone.
okay.
well, let's invite him. Let's
We'll invite him,
because-
but-
yes, because it's,
He's
yeah,
been extremely clear repeatedly. Districts are within zones.
Yeah, let's invite him.
Districts are within zones, and
Yeah.
they don't have to follow boundary lines, they follow the shoreland 250-foot mark. That's where those end,
For shoreline zone?
and that's very clear.
Yeah.
They do follow property lines, but the shoreline zone doesn't. but the districts do.
No, they do not. The districts end.
I can show you in the statute where it
The
says.
CFMA ends at the 250-foot line.
That's right, that's what I'm saying, in the
Well,
shoreline
that's not
zone.
a property
does-
line. That is a,
The shoreland zone does not follow property line.
right.
The rest of the districts do.
So you're saying
And-
the inland district can go into the shoreline zone and open up?
That's why, no, like the CFMA
Hmm.
is a district within the shoreland zone, but it follows the property
But
line.
it's not supposed to. That's a violation.
No, it has to.
Yes.
How else can we designate?
Am I speaking French? I'm not clear why this isn't coming across.
Well, I
The
think-
CFMA. One specific property. All right, here's Ted's new property.
Yeah.
Right now, it's outlined going all the way out to the road. It should not do that. It should stop here at this green line.
Oh, I agree with you, but
Okay.
it's still honoring his property lines on the two sides.
Yes,
So it is designated by the property boundaries, whereas the shoreline zone doesn't. It's the whole thing. It ignores property lines completely.
So the zone ignores property. lines.
yes,
Districts follow property lines.
yeah, on the
Okay.
sides.
Yes, well, that's
Okay,
what I mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I thought part of the point there, that
Well-
making is that the district stops for shoreline zoning, this district stops at the 250.
yes,
So you have another district on the other side of the 250.
yes,
And I'm saying so take the example Ted's property.
yep,
He has CFMA that's within the shoreline zone.
yep,
My argument would be that outside the shoreline zone, it's just the regular
It's
limited
just-
residential commercial.
yes.
But it's in that district. The district will reflect his property.
So I think the point is that you first apply the property line, or I'm sorry, you first apply the boundary of the zone.
Yeah.
And secondarily, you apply the boundary of the property. So the zone creates a boundary that doesn't respect property
Yeah,
lines.
Yeah.
And so-
but districts also don't have to follow property lines because it's written right in the little section about district
That's what I was-
boundaries. So it says all the zones we have don't have to follow property lines. So, for example, some of the CFMAs have been written for portions of properties. They didn't want to put the whole thing in the CFMA. So Davies property or
Looks like Ted's other property, Ted and Deb's other property though does, it's kind of, you get the waterfront, but it stretches way back in.
right,
So
So this-
all that should be limited residential commercial.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
At any rate, at this point, we're not honoring the shoreline zone properly.
Yes.
Just don't make it good.
The other thing I think that was revelatory was the point with the 75-foot. We have restrictions that we do follow with the following statute for the 75-foot boundary.
And-
But in effect, there's a different area then beyond the 75 to the 250. We don't do anything with that.
Is there,
Sometimes it's for protection.
Yeah, okay.
except for,
Resource protection.
okay, so what you're saying is that's still governed by the shoreline zone.
Yeah.
But there's an opportunity to
Should be.
They're
create
different setbacks.
other districts within that.
No,
No, no.
That's different.
They're not different
Restrictions.
zones either. So Ross sent me this because he was trying to make it clear, right? There's
Setbacks, yeah.
you should talk about the 250 and the
Yeah.
75 as setbacks. They're setbacks within the shoreline zone.
Good, good,
So they're
good.
different than
Good,
districts
good.
and zones, but I just printed this out last minute, so I didn't have a chance to look over it, but
Incorporated into our ordinances, right? Things
kind of, but we could go further. Like we haven't done much in this red to green zone.
Yeah, I think this is funny because it's been confusing, because sometimes we
Yeah.
talk about the 75 and 250 as
As
zones.
zones, and they're not.
They're not, I'm glad, that was one of my
Yeah.
points in looking at
Confusing.
it.
The semantics is terrible.
Yeah,
This is the gray area, rivers and wetlands, there's a streamland district that we don't have. And the definitions are very specific as to what qualifies and what doesn't, but we don't, as you can see from our map, we're not protecting most of those.
So we could add some protection.
I think there's some that we may have to add, and then, but it's gonna take some homework to figure out, and then others that we can add.
this is part of it. What you're really doing, you're bringing forward, the point is that we're missing things.
We're missing.
in terms of protecting our natural resources, we're missing things.
Yeah.
And this is maybe another opportunity then to do a better job protecting the island.
So our building code ordinance, if we have two ordinances, all this shoreland zone stuff shouldn't be in the building code. Like, that's very confusing. We have the table that lists, this table that lists out all the shoreland zone districts in our building code ordinance, which is our non-shoreland zone. And there's only, it should be one column right now, at least, because we don't differentiate. It's all one set of rules.
Yeah.
And so we should have one column that lists out whatever those interior rules are. I haven't figured that out, but we should not have all this stuff, because that's just confusing. You're gonna look at that and be like, well, what district am I in? And you're not in any of those districts because you're not in the shoreline zone. So I think we just copied that table over, basically, and I think we should have done
Okay, okay.
it. So those are the basic changes, right? I think we need to be more clear that this is non-shoreline zone
Yeah,
and create at least one district that ends at that, when you hit that 250 line.
Or again, I'll say, why don't we say we create a second zone?
We need to do that too.
Right, because that's the top level
Right.
definition.
I mean, we kind of have it already, we just haven't explicitly named it.
But zones and districts are not the same thing.
Yeah, I know,
Okay,
yeah,
so we create a zone.
Right.
That parallels the shoreline zone.
Yeah.
It's the non-shoreline zone.
yeah.
Because the rules for shoreline don't apply to it.
Well, the problem is we only have one district in that whole thing,
And
right? So it's redundant, right? We
Well-
have a zone and a district that cover the exact same.
Nick may be right that that's the only thing that applies. I don't know about the other districts, whether they don't fit into the non-shoreline.
Well,
But the point
you
is-
can do whatever you want, basically, and you can make up any amount of districts,
Yeah,
but
we-
just to
We
keep
can
the
add
status
subsets.
quo.
yeah, and we
Right
can
now,
add
it's-
other types of districts.
We just need one district to keep the status quo, but we could go further, and yeah, we could do an inland resource protection district, which I think would be great. Or
right.
whatever else we wanna do.
Yeah.
But just for now, I'm thinking like this spring, if we wanna make our ordinance make sense and align with state rules, that's the bare minimum. And
Yeah.
I don't really wanna go trying to create new districts right now, because probably gonna be hard enough to do this.
Yeah.
But maybe in another year or two, once we get our ducks in a row and at least get an alignment, then we can go forward and say, now that everything's correct, here's how we can go further.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, there's a lot going on here and, one's gonna be bringing our group up to speed so that we can intelligently make a proposal. And then secondly, sell it to the community. So I think, I mean, I agree with you. I think, we go a long way if we focus on the shoreline zone and correct those boundaries.
The
Oh.
mandatory, since what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anything else that might be low hanging fruit within the shoreline zone. And create the new zone, whatever we want to call it, the inner,
Inner limited residential. or not short.
non-shoreline.
Yeah.
yeah, the inner thinking Lord of the Rings, what are they? One of those things.
The Shire, we'll call it the
Thank
Shire.
you.
Yeah.
And then stop and then think about next year what we do with the districts inside.
No,
I'm really
Basically,
looking
what
forward
we're
to
proposing.
trying to
Yep, no,
explain that to
yeah.
100 people.
Yeah,
One other item though, the shoreline zone is required as well to encompass the 100-year flood zones, and we don't do that either.
Yeah, I'm about to get to that. So that's problem number 2 on the,
That expand the boundary inside.
Yeah, it does.
so,
Not all over the island, but in key places, like Swan Creek and Long Cove.
problem number 2. Our resource protection district, the way we have it written, is only one of the optional choices that the DEP offers. There's 4 not optional choices that we don't include. And then there's A through E options. And the option E is how we define our entire resource protection district. So I ran this by Ross again today. I'm like, so, and he's like, oh, wow, yeah, no, you need to have those 4 in them. Now, I think there's one that just doesn't apply, which is about great ponds or something, which we don't have. But if it just doesn't apply, yeah, well, maybe we should keep it then. But there's four, and I just kind of summarized them here because I didn't want to put the whole word verbiage, but floodplains should be part of our resource protection district. Areas of 2+ acres with slopes of 20% or more.
Come on.
Areas of 2+ acres with wetland vegetation and hydric soils not otherwise part of a wetland, so it's just a standalone wet area that's pretty big. That should be part of resource protection. And areas adjacent to coastal waters subject to severe erosion, like coastal bluffs. I think we have.
And that's
bluffs.
within the shoreline zone.
Yeah,
They're in the resource protection zone, but that's mandatory, that's part of the shoreline. But that was the part I was saying that we're probably in violation, but we'd have to actually go in there and measure the acreage and figure out where the wetlands are and then we have
Yeah.
to notify individual landowners that it's being added.
Yikes, yikes.
so it's,
So that's gonna be a longer lift.
Wow.
yeah.
It's a lot of, it's
No,
a-
I'll ask him how we do it, because
Yeah.
I think we need to do it quickly, because we just
Yeah.
are out of alignment. I also don't understand why Colin didn't flag all this, if all this was so bad.
Right.
He's looking
right.
over our ordinance, why wasn't he like, oh, you're missing this? You know, it took him coming down here,
how would he know that we didn't have the floodplains incorporated?
It's not in the ordinance.
because we didn't,
Because but in terms of the definition, do we reference the floodplains?
No. all we referenced is wading bird habitat.
It's not there.
Yeah, so he doesn't necessarily know that we don't have it.
But he's seen our ordinance.
Well, maybe he
But
thinks we don't have
the shoreline zone
floodplains.
statute requires it, as she's
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
so he should notice that it's not there.
Well, then he can ask the question, why don't you have it? Do you not have those floodplains?
Right.
And we have said, yes, we do. It's just, then he would have said, oh, you should have it.
We don't.
But I don't think I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think necessarily, we know what we should have.
There's one guy and there are a lot of towns in the state too, so
Yeah.
it's probably not looking unless we have
Your problem too.
His name is Ross, so they basically split up the state in 3 ways, I think. And Colin is our area, Ross does like Bangor and stuff. And then there's another guy who does down south, but since Colin's out, Ross is
He was still.
answering the emails, so.
Alright, well, that's, there's a lot there, even if we just focus on the shoreline, but.
And then problem number 3 is with CFMA district, and figuring out how to evaluate those, and that's something I've been corresponding with the MMA about. As I talked to Colin about this, he thought it was fine, he's like, oh yeah, you definitely should be evaluating those, and if they are non-commercial now, rezone, you know, so he thought conceptually it was fine. But there's a lot of like possible legal hurdles, so I sent a draft over to the MMA to go over and corresponding with them, but basically saying, defining it as, I wrote it out here, this, it's for people engaging in commercial fishing and commercial maritime activities. We never say that really explicitly, like we really should make that a condition of the zoning, and then if you're not doing that, we have some kind of mechanism to check. And then make
Because
a recommendation of the select board to put it on the warrant to rezone it.
Statute also specifies suggested criteria for CFMAs. It's in the statute, it's not in our ordinance. We don't have that. Yes.
Did you all get into the conversation about the flexibility of that? In other words, if somebody gets out of that business, then the CFMA zoops back. Did you talk?
Well, it can't just, it can never
It can't.
automatically
It can't.
revert back
Yeah.
because it always has to be a town
I
meeting
hate
vote.
for us to.
I had talked about transfers, like maybe when you transfer it, the CFMA goes away, it goes back to the original, and she's like, nope, because you could say that, and then the town meeting might decide differently, so. It's always a town meeting decision, nothing is.
It's a change of use.
I think it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they basically are locked in.
MMA.
Like
It's
it's on.
Yeah.
I think the planning board and the select board can probably waive
Yeah.
the change of use provisions through certain circumstances, but
Basically.
it would have to come through
What are you doing here?
a site review process.
Okay. All right, well, the challenge is putting this on paper.
I know,
And explaining it to the rest of the
I know.
town.
I think an important component, as you said, is getting
Because it
some
would do for.
guidance or advice on how we
Yeah,
identify.
yeah, I mean, I just discovered this one, so. it kind of set me back, but I think it's.
I mean, this
So,
is,
so can we invite the Ross to our next meeting, but make sure it doesn't necessarily last for 3 hours, cause, I mean, I know it could last for 3 hours, but,
Yeah.
what do you think, John? What do you think about it?
yeah, no, I think, you've got some fairly specific questions, we can put them on early and do it by Zoom if that's
Yeah.
comfortable for. 'em.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely.
Well, we're narrowing the focus.
Yeah.
What needs to be done right now,
Right.
and I still would like
So
to
I'm sort of.
build those maps and stuff and start educating futures, but that's not.
I know, but.
Yeah, those aren't gonna be warrant items this year.
Yeah, we can-
No.
this, as we said early on, this is a couple of year or more
That's what it was.
enterprise. Okay, all right.
Oh my God, thank you guys for
You learned something.
all the attention.
All right, well, let us know if you need any help. And this, if there's some stuff you can delegate out,
Yeah.
that you just let us know. All right, so I see that as one significant piece of. proposal.
Next week's meeting,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we'll try to tee it up for the April meeting to formalize.
Yeah, I'll try to have a little bit more, and we can have a list of specific questions for Ross next, week, and then maybe for April, we can have an actual draft.
Yeah,
okay,
if, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Next Wednesday would be good. And, you know, I'm not, opposed to having another study session. Now,
Hey, Ash,
if that would be helpful.
just so you know, that we're recording this meeting. That's okay. Just. I'll do it.
I, thank you for mentioning that.
Sorry about that.
Okay, great, congratulations on all you, this is really super, good job, guys, good job. This is huge, I mean, this.
you know,
Just
this
the
is a
fact
big
that we're-
start, yeah.
Or we're, is huge, because how long have we been going and didn't know, so. And we've got a map.
got a map.
Okay, at least one map, at least one-
97, but we have
at
it.
least one map.
The other thing for just background consideration is the statutes really intend for the comprehensive plan to rule, and the ordinances are supposed to be brought into compliance with the comprehensive plan. Right now, it ain't true.
Mhm.
And so our options are either to amend the ordinances within a reasonable time period or amend the comprehensive plan so
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
propose those things.
Yeah,
But technically, under the statute, the comprehensive plan rules, not the ordinances.
yeah,
And we're out of sync
Mhm,
because the
mhm.
plan was 2019 and the ordinances go back to the early 90s.
right,
So different circumstances.
right, right,
Um,
all right, come back to,
so we can enter into
Hmm.
the next cycle of the comprehensive planning process, figure out which we wanna do.
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that comes back to just continuing agenda to implement the comprehensive plan.
We'll keep reviewing, because that is part of the point, is things you can say, we think we'd like to do. And we said, no, we don't wanna bother.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good work, that's great, that's great. Susan, did you have any questions since since we're punishing you with all of this?
No, well, I actually did, I was thinking, so would this have to be? You would have to rewrite the ordinances, is that,
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm, mhm.
and then that would be voted on at the town meeting,
Yep,
okay?
yep.
And the map too, we have to update, and they're
Okay.
separate votes. Which
Okay.
doesn't make a lot of sense to me, cause like, how could you okay the ordinance and not the map, but
Yeah,
anyways, yeah,
huh,
two separate votes.
okay,
And that's something we have, I don't think ever done, we've updated our shoreland zoning ordinance several times without updating the map. And adding CFMAs and things like that. We like informally update our online maps. This is the unofficial. I drew this because it's so hard to look at online. I was like, I
Okay.
need to see it better. This is not our official zoning map.
Oh.
This is up to date. Our official one isn't. But yeah, we've never updated the map at the meeting. Like when we added Ted's CFMA, we should have also voted separately on the map and
We-
updated our official map.
We've never talked about
Yep,
the map.
yep.
I think that's the point. It's, so many of these, we have had a way of doing things.
Yeah,
Right.
It may not have been the right way of doing things. And again, going back to,
Yeah.
The basic thing we found in Cotton Column a couple years ago, is how we're not analyzing property changes in the shoreline zone, which we've had a ton of over the years. And now we know.
Okay, good deal, good deal. Demi's not here, we'll ask her Wednesday. In a week if she has anything more that she wants to tell us about her proposed ordinance or not.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other ordinances in mind at this point? You were talking about melding all the ordinances together, or are you still thinking of trying to do something
Yeah,
like
let's-
this time, or?
well, just mainly these two, building and shoreland, so that we have one instead of
Okay.
two confusing ones, just one that lays it all out. Or keeping two, but making it a lot more clear,
Clear.
All right.
which covers what and what districts are in what.
Okay.
I was thinking about the ADU one and maybe trying to fold it into land use. A lot of towns
Mhm.
did that.
Yeah.
Just to like minimize how many ordinances we have and get everything in one place,
Yeah.
but. It's not urgent, like that works fine as a standalone, I think, so, like,
Yeah.
whatever,
Mhm.
this might be enough.
Okay, yeah,
On the ADUs, everyone made note of when the legislation making changes, whether it's impacted what we've done. I haven't gone back to net that.
say that again, what
This
is,
legislature's been making alterations,
oh, yeah, updating. it.
and whether there's a need for us to update, I don't know.
I haven't paid any attention to that. I mean, I've been generally aware that there's been some activity, but they did something last year. And,
We're trying to fix something this year. but
Yeah.
I can't
But
remember.
they're still in session, so I don't think it would become law
I may
for
have,
us.
may have wrongfully assumed that somebody would tell us if we had to do something, cause they
I think the
told us
RPC
that-
has let us know that these laws are being discussed, or these proposals are being discussed, but
Yeah,
Yeah, they talked about, yeah, as a discussion topic
Yeah, yeah.
for towns to participate in, but I don't know that anyone from Westwood did.
Cause they were pretty aggressive in telling us what we had to do about LD 2003.
But that was because it was new and we were all in the pan. These are some modifications, some fine tuning. And nothing stood out to me when I read this stuff, to say that it was, but I think I've lost the bubble.
Yeah,
And maybe it would be good to ask the Regional Planning Commission
yeah,
just some thoughts whether there's anything we should look into.
who's the,
Emily, but they've got other land use planners there, but I think they're also still worried that it's still a one size fits all solutions. So I think it's good to pay attention to that, whether it affects our small town without public water and sewer versus like Waldeboro. you know.
Yeah.
So we should find out, we can find out about that. I think Emily went up last week, a couple weeks ago to testify, blah, blah, blah. But anyway,
yeah, I kind of lost sight of that,
Look-
cause that was on my radar initially was, oh, here's an opportunity to sell the legislature on the differences. between the-
yeah,
That's higher density. All right, well, let me send an email to Emily and find out what's going on
okay.
with respect to LD 2003.
Oh, we'll send you the numbers. There's new numbers, right? There's new LDs.
Oh, yeah, well, one that was passed last or something.
Because they did pass something last year, I remember.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
I,
And they've been tweaking,
Right.
it's just,
right,
no one said anything like it's, because I'm on the board
okay.
for the Regional Planning Commission, and we do have discussion with talks, but nothing that stood out as major for Lincoln County.
Okay. That's cool. All right, well, on the water quality, I've been beating that drum a little bit.
Yep.
From time to time. What I really have in mind, and I'll draft something up, for our meeting Wednesday, just so you have it, is, maybe 2 or 3 sentence amendment to our current water quality zone. But But what I'd like to propose is, number one, impose a permitting requirement for wells. And in addition to a permitting requirement, to be reviewed by and approved by the planning. Would be the 200-foot boundary for all future. Wells, not boundary, distance between well and sanitation. Which was recommended 20 years ago by the folks that did that first analysis and set of recommendations, and is again repeated by under the new study.
How does it fare with, I don't know much about how we regulate septic systems and wells because it's all LPI, or does LPI just do septic?
Yeah, they just do septic.
That's what they have to permit the septic, but when people put the well in,
The well, the fun thing about the well is it's purely statutory, and I referenced it in the memo I sent out. It's purely statutory, and it's purely regulated by a statewide commission, licensing commission, that licensed the well diggers. So the only way that you police what's going on is by finding a complaint with the commission. And the only thing they can do is take away a license. So there's really no local control, local oversight or local eyes on the ball, if you will. And the other fun is that the homeowner and the person drilling a well can agree among themselves to create an exception to all of the requirements. Just because.
because there is no, you're saying there's no direct oversight to that well.
Yeah, so it's the Wild West, folks. It's whatever the homeowner and the well digger agree to, is. And not only is there no oversight, but you don't even know that somebody's digging the well. Which, I mean, that's consistent with our laissez-faire approach, and for good reasons. But I think we're reaching a point in our island awareness where we might be interested in considering adding another quality control that isn't there. So the permitting requirement, the whole point of that is simply to know, number two, to enforce the 200-foot minimum.
Is that the 200-foot of state law, or one we could put in our land use ordinance?
Yeah, another fun fact, the state statute refers to 100-foot as the minimum.
That's what I thought it was, 100, I thought it was 100 feet.
That's the minimum.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
That's the minimum, but it's not it's not in the ordinances.
so where did the two?
It's a statute, it's a statutory minimum. And that can be waived. Yeah, by agreement between the well digger and the homeowner. The 200-foot minimum was recommended by, and I've forgotten the name of the organization, that did a.
Stratus.
Yeah, Stratus. Yeah.
Stratix?
They did,
Right.
you're familiar with the water study that was just done
Yes.
2 years ago. Well, a similar study was done 20 years ago. And one of their recommendations 20 years ago was that we have a 200-foot minimum locally. And put in place.
So we're allowed to go beyond the state.
Yeah, the state statute says it's a
Their
minimum
minimums.
and you can go anywhere you want to.
And since it's not LPI jurisdiction, it would be more like a land use, even though it's water related, it would be a land use.
Exactly, it just becomes a land
Right.
use ordinance.
And we do have a well form, which I guess is sort of a permit that people are supposed to be submitting with their permit applications for buildings. But we just have not done it in practice, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to,
There's no requirement that they do that.
right,
And just to, draw the line, in the inner shire there, where the building code applies, the water quality ordinance is basically says you can't pollute. That's all it says. And the same ordinance, the same water quality ordinance applies to shoreline zone.
which water quality ordinance, what do you mean,
It's, I'll quote it.
or the state statute?
Our ordinance, the town ordinance for the building code says no activity shall deposit onto or into the ground, discharge to the waters, any pollutant.
Right, okay,
The same water quality ordinance for the shoreline zone, shoreline ordinance says no activity shall deposit on or into the ground or discharge into the waters to the state any pollutant. That's it.
that's our whole, yeah, that's already in our,
No,
Yes,
or
in the building
shoreline
code.
and building code
Building code.
ordinances, but it's very minimal.
So did,
and let me just finish the thought real quick. No, let me just finish the thought real quick. In the site plan review ordinance, which is purely commercial, and in the subdivision ordinance, which is residential but higher density, we have like 3 pages of, hydrology this, hydrology that.
Yeah,
So I'm not proposing that we apply those ordinances to building code or shoreline zone, although I think it's probably a good idea, but all I'm saying at this point, proposing at this point is we require a permit and we add the 200-foot to all the zones.
I was just wondering why the state and this group's recommendations aren't are so different. 100 feet is a lot when you're talking about, building a house on a piece of property. So,
It's setbacks, the distance
Yeah.
100 feet
Yeah.
from the water source.
right, yeah, it just seems like if I, I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of turn here, but if I was looking to vote on making that kind of a change, I would wanna see. I would wanna see data information as to why
Yeah,
we're changing it that much, why we're doubling it,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And there's information in both studies, the most current one
Mhm.
and the one 20 years ago to support that.
Okay,
And it's, it all has to do with, what's going in the ground over here,
yeah,
ending up
Mhm.
with what you're taking out of the ground over here.
okay, yeah,
And given the fact that we don't have an aquifer,
Mhm.
the pool of water that we're tapping into, what we're tapping into are cracks in the rock where water, drains.
yeah,
And creating a big crack that it drains into and then fall apart. So it's not an exact science. I mean, everybody we've talked to has said, yeah, I mean, something goes into the ground at the tip of the island would end up at the bottom of it, or it could just stay right there. It's where the cracks go and how the water flows through the cracks.
but we aren't even enforcing the state minimum, the 100 foot at this point, right? I mean, it exists as a rule, but the state isn't really enforcing it, and we have nothing in our ordinances that would even help us even meet that bare minimum.
Yeah.
You could be drilling the well.
Yeah,
So even,
But for the septic, I think that's part of what the LPI has to certify, is that from the source of drinking water.
yeah,
And the setbacks, they're required.
right,
yeah, that's a good point.
so. Sorry, with the 100 feet, are we talking about distance between well and septic, or
Mhm.
distance between wells, 2 different wells?
Well,
Or
and
both?
septic.
Well and septic. Okay,
Well, and septic.
is there anything about the distance between wells, like on properties that are next to each other?
I'm not proposing that. There is in the ordinance that is written for the for this site plan review and for subdivision. There is, there is,
I'm just thinking, if I was as a property owner, we put our well one place, someone buys the lot next door and tries to put a well right next to ours, that's gonna be annoying, right? Like,
You know, it's just, you don't know.
yeah,
This is the thing that's kind of so annoying, because you could have two that are right next to each other, but they may,
be
the
fine.
cracks may be fine. Or if things, as time changes, your well could dry up.
Mhm.
And there'd be nobody around you. This is what we've had,
Right.
a number of folks have had their wells dry up.
Mhm.
Something changed. But we've had folks also complaining that, oh, when they're blasting just down the road from me, maybe it's the blasting that changed the geology. We just don't know.
so, and, that's something that, folks might want to consider at some point, if they want to consider something like that as a distance between the house, but. I mean, I recognize that by talking about this, it's gonna raise, some concern.
Well, yeah,
200
also
feet?
the current, like. I'm sure what people have already done is. That they're not gonna they're not gonna drill another well, right?
This would only be,
Right.
New
But
wells.
they're gonna be concerned because they're gonna say, oh, my well's only. 110 feet away from my septic, do I have a problem? I mean, it could raise concerns, so there should maybe.
well, that's part of the public
Yeah.
education process.
Yeah.
That the
Mhm.
water study,
Yeah.
really wanted to do, and that is raise the consciousness of folks about awareness of, uh, you know. So far, I mean, there have been issues, I think, isolated issues, but so far, knock on wood, don't have the tank right now, we don't have. Wells drying up all over the island, that's
Yeah.
salt in everybody's wells.
Mhm.
So,
But we're aware of the potential issue and if, from my perspective, it makes some sense to. Act on that awareness and continue to collect information and. It's one thing to, put your head in the sand and just ignore it. It's another to be aware of it and then collect information so that you can make important decisions before bad things happen.
okay, so you're saying 100 feet between, or 200 between a well and a septic?
Yeah.
But Jeff, did you just say that that's already something the LPI have to look at when they're,
When there's permitting the septic system,
yeah?
that is one of the things they have to.
So if there's an existing well, it has to be at least 100 feet from the well.
Yeah.
So we already have that in place. I
Yeah.
guess what we don't have is if you
If the
put the
well comes
septic in
after.
first and the well comes after.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's the whole,
Yeah.
let's see.
And also, do they check whether it's 100 foot away from your neighbor's well or just from your?
I think they would do that as well. Yeah, I don't know, Gary can say for sure what he does do, but that's part of, I think, the usual. And that's a challenge as you get into, because when we looked at the property that Gary did the work on last winter, at the end of the.
Oh, the one on the shore.
Yeah, because they were putting in a septic system. And in a very dense area with a lot of other things. So that was one of the considerations was, okay, where are we, where's the water coming from?
I'm imagining most of the subdivisions, they're close together.
Yeah, this is one of the big deals. I think this, as soon as hitting on the point is that for people existing property or lots, that setback from water source, or setback from property line, where that's affected, could make it whether that they can build on that property. So actually in subdivision ordinance, this is one as we talked about way back when the Crooker Road property was being proposed for subdividing,
Right.
was that the subdivision ordinance really is expecting with a major subdivision that the property owner will be able to show that there's the possibility for drilling on any one of those lots. You may not
Right,
like
right,
the location
right,
for that well, but the property owner, to do the subdivision, would have to say, yes, there is the possibility of getting water in this lot. Otherwise, if you can't get water, it's totally
Right, right, right.
100%. Not possible, then that lot's not. That's how I understood the subdivision ordinance.
Yeah, that makes sense. So those are the two proposals.
So you're gonna sort of slightly amend what you've already sent us, or?
Yeah, so I'm
Make it
gonna
easier.
actually put it in the
Okay.
draft. Language, And again,
Said something.
really just that.
Something at the last meeting,
Well,
you did something?
But I had also talked here about amending the ADU ordinance to incorporate the water quality provisions from the subdivision ordinance. Since the parallel there is the ADU ordinance, some density as is the subdivision ordinance. So I'll think a little bit more about that, but
Okay.
that was kind of, we had the discussion last year. But, 2000. And that was kind of like low hanging fruit and forgot her name, the person who did all the hard work on the study. Called that.
Carol,
Yeah, Carol White. Called that out and said, that's a big. That's a concern, that the ADU didn't have STEM with homes.
okay.
So I may have that to, simply along the lines of incorporating what's already in the subdivision ordinance to apply the ADU ordinance. So, at any rate, fun talking about those. All right, that's all, that's what I had on my.
So we're talking about 4 warrant items, the Susan's, the shoreland, the groundwater, and maybe the ADU.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
I think that's what, unless Demi wants to,
Yeah, then we might
Oh.
come up with the lot coverage.
That's right.
Yeah, I wish we'd talk some more about that, just because it could also kind of go into the shoreline zone.
right,
Was another wrinkle that we didn't really talk about.
that, and was her proposal just within the shoreline zone? Or
I don't think so.
Was that-
No, it's for everyone.
But it goes back to the thing, if you can't develop on the shoreline zone area, and then that limits the rest of the lot,
Right,
and you could make the rest of that lot fairly impermeable
right,
by our current ordinance, and I think that was kind of where I thought she was gonna have the discussion. Maybe you need to talk about the things outside of the shoreline zone, and that should be the area that you then do a percentage of.
yeah,
Because again, you wanna be able to have things perked down, and not have hard surfaces to run off.
Yeah, actually, our current ordinance would allow more coverage in the shoreline zone than the law allows. Just because of the way we wrote it,
Mhm.
and you can't do
Can't do
that,
that,
but that's what it says.
yeah, we need to tighten it up.
Story of my life.
Okay, all right, one thing at a time, but as we said when we started this journey, we don't wanna bite off too much and get frustrated, so what's comfortable, okay, this, we wanna do whatever we do, right, and if we don't get it all done this year, we'll keep working on it. Okay. Good session, anybody else have anything you wanna stick around?
Nothing for site plan review, sorry.
All right, well, I'll move here to adjourn,
Okay,
Second,
or we did have a forum.
yes, we do.
This
Yep.
is great.
that was the only vote we had, but
Yeah, and we're not to